Okay, so if you look on the board over here, what's coming up is your unit test, which is not going to be this Friday, it's going to be next Tuesday. So we've got this big push to get through Unit 4. Hard to believe that 2 weeks from tomorrow is your last day of class before Thanksgiving, and 2 weeks from Thursday is Thanksgiving, which is a little gross when we're sweating in 75-degree weather. But it's coming, so I just need you guys to be super focused. Grammar is hard. That's what we're going to pound on for the next week. You are going to have one more paper this semester. Isn't that amazing? And that paper is going to be on a famous American. No, I'm sorry, not a famous American. An American person who has left a legacy. The only requirements are they are American and they are dead.
Oh, dang it.
Okay? So you can't write about somebody that you know that's active. You could write on a president, you could write on a movie producer or a famous actor or a sports figure or an author. I did a sample paper a couple years ago on Laura Ingalls Wilder. But I want you to start mulling that over. You're not going to have that probably for 2 weeks. We might get to start it before Thanksgiving. But just be thinking about who is an American who has left a legacy. You could even choose a veteran. And it could be somebody in your family. It doesn't have to be somebody who's super famous. However, you do need to be able to research them. So there needs to be some online sources. Okay, Josh.
So unit 4 is like adverbs.
Unit 4 is adverbs.
That's
So-
adverbs.
Well, all of grammar fits together. So you're going to be diagramming all the parts of speech. Adverbs were kind of our last part of speech, so it's all coming together. Okay, Christian?
They have to be born in America.
They do not have to be born in America.
They have to live in America.
They needed to have lived, ideally, be American citizens.
Or could they just have like an impact on America?
Living in America? Okay, tell me who you're thinking about when we get to it.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm looking for Americans who have left an impact. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and start with adverbs. Who can tell me what is an adverb? Who just got that off the top of their head?
A word that modifies a verb, adjective, or another adverb.
Okay, so it's right in front of you because I asked you to get those out, but if it's not, you need that sheet out. We're gonna actually take notes on this sheet. So if you don't have your adverb sheet, please get it out. And we're just gonna review this. So you know that an adverb modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. If you can't say it, if it's not in your memory bank, think about going to the Quizlet site, Unit 4 flashcards, and work on that. So there are a bunch of questions, 8 questions that adverbs answer. Can anybody, like turning this over, can anybody tell me what are those questions, Maddie?
How, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, under what conditions?
You read it.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody just know it from memory? Okay, Josh.
How, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, under what condition.
Okay, that was so expressive. Okay, so everybody needs to memorize that. There might be a quiz on it this week. So, there might. And I don't think I've ever said there might be a quiz and there hasn't been a quiz. So we're going to do the chant. We're going to do it 3 times. It's afternoon. You're tired. You're hot. But do it enthusiastically. So you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.
How, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, under what conditions, how, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, under what
One
conditions,
more time.
how, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, under what conditions.
Okay, now,
Jim, I can't hear you.
how many people feel pretty comfortable with that? Like if I said, put away your notebooks, write down all these questions, you could do it. Okay.
How, when, where.
Okay, there are 4 types of adverbs. What's one type? Jonathan? It's listed right there. Simple? Okay, Jacob, what's a simple adverb?
A form, it is formed with like
There's no suffix.
easy,
What?
like easy,
Like easy, or what's the other one?
hard.
Hard. Okay, so it's your non-ly adverbs. Those are your simple. Josh, what's another type?
There's like the negative ones.
The
There's like
negative ones?
Not, no, that kind of stuff.
No, not never. They negate a sentence. They negate a verb. Sarah Rhodes, we've got simple. We've got a negative. What's another type?
Affirmative.
Affirmative. What does affirmative do?
It affirms the meaning. So it's like absolutely, of course.
Yeah, it kind of spotlights. This is really true. And I think we talked in this class about one type of affirmative adverb, but if you have not written down please, write that down under affirmative, because please is one of those words that doesn't nicely answer an adverb question. Nonetheless, it is an adverb. Okay, that is an affirmative adverb. And the last type, Campbell,
Flectional.
flectional. What is that?
It is an LY adverb and it's typically adjectives. Oh, plus.
It's an adjective plus an ly, but it's your stock adverb that ends with an ly. It's what you've learned since 6th and 7th grade.
So is lovely? It's an lovely is an adjective.
That's an adjective. Okay, so there are exceptions. So you can't say all ly words are adverbs, but the majority of adverbs are ly words. So always ask those questions. And the way you can tell the difference between an adverb and an adjective is how? Caroline, how can you tell the difference between an adjective and an adverb?
Some of them have ly, and then, I don't know.
There's one sure proof way of telling the difference.
Is it by what's in
That, and there's one more.
Okay, then, yes?
Is it by asking the question?
Asking the question. So these questions you should have in your mind. What are the adjective questions? What are the adverb questions? And that's important because today we're getting into prepositional phrases.
Ooh.
So on this sheet, I want you to write down 2 definitions. So adverbial phrases.
They both say adverb. Oh wait.
Okay. Do they?
No.
Okay. Adverbial phrases and adverbial clauses. Today we're going to focus on adverbial phrases, but I want to define them both. So an adverbial phrase is just a prepositional phrase that answers an adverb question. A prepositional phrase that answers an adverb. A prepositional phrase that answers an adverb question. So when you have prepositional phrases, we've already talked about the adjectival ones. They're going to answer what kind, how many, which, whose. So today we're going to look at prepositional phrases, and you're going to have to decide, are they acting as adjectives or adverbs? If they answer what, how, when, where, why, to what extent, how often, how much, any of those, under what condition, then they are adverbial. So we're really going to start applying this. So that is an adverbial clause. We just call them prepositional phrases that are adverbial. Now adverbial clauses, I want you to write this down. They are independent clauses that start with a subordinating conjunction and answer an adverb question.
With the what conjunction?
Subordinating.
Wait, then how
Okay.
can it be independent?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Did I say it? Dependent. Did I say independent?
You said
Oh, dependent. Dependent. I'm looking right at the word. I don't know why my brain translated it like that.
Can you say
Dependent clauses.
Can you say the whole thing?
I'm saying it again. Dependent clauses that start with a subordinating conjunction and answer an adverb question. Dependent clauses that start with a subordinating conjunction and answer an adverb question. Okay, so you guys have that. Now, let me ask you this. You've learned adjectival clauses, and I put those often in extra credit on the test. Can anybody tell me what is an adjectival clause?
Ooh.
This is hard.
Is it who which clause?
I guess it's not so hard. It's a who which clause.
Well, that's because I got it wrong on the test.
Okay, so we learn from our mistakes. So you've got these, there are 2 types of dependent clauses. One is adverbial, one is adjectival. And right now what we really focus on is, hey, it's a dependent clause. So that means it's gonna contribute to a complex structured sentence. But if it's adverbial, it answers an adverb question. Adjectival, it's gonna be one of those who, which, or that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. And I am optimistic because this worked well in my other classes. We are gonna go over this in here, And then are you guys tired of going outside?
No.
Is it too hot?
Never,
No.
never.
Okay, so I feel a lot of sympathy, and I think all the teachers do, because we have rain in the forecast for the next 5 days. So we kind of need to enjoy the sunshine while we can. So, okay, those of you that are zealous to finish your homework before you get out of school, please don't start doing this right away. Please listen. We're gonna go over the first 2, and I need to give you some instructions. So the very first instruction, this is posted on Google Classroom correctly, but the worksheet you have in your hand, you need to cross out the first sentence of instruction. So you're gonna cross out that sentence that says, read the following sentences and label the parts of speech, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, oh, you will thank me, because what you're gonna replace it with is underline adverbs,
Okay.
including adverb phrases. So that's all you're looking for, you're underlining adverbs, including adverb phrases.
Figure out how to write it.
Okay, so that's your first instruction. Second, diagram on a separate piece of paper. So I don't care, it doesn't need to be a separate piece of paper, but I would like you to diagram 1 through 4. Now, ultimately, we'll diagram all these, but for tonight, 1 through 4. And then I want you to indicate whether it's simple, compound, complex, or compound, complex.
All of them?
Only diagram the first 4?
You're only diagramming the first 4, but you are completing the entire worksheet for the other instructions. Okay, so, here's, when I did this worksheet, here's what I did. I took one time, I went through and I just underlined adverbs. So let's do number 1 together. And Jacob, can you tell me one adverb that you see in number 1?
Eventually.
Okay, eventually. So it's really easy to look at these LYs and see, oh yeah, eventually is modifying ended. So that's one, Lucy.
I just have a question, or well, another phrase, like a phrase is when the party eventually ended, but would you underline that twice?
Okay, so, no. If it is part of a clause,
Okay.
you are not separating that, okay? So it's only adverbs that are standalone words or part of a phrase.
Okay.
Excellent question. Another adverb. There's one more in here, Liza Min. What is it?
Extreme.
Extreme. Okay? So extremely modified, you don't need to do that. Modified things will eventually end it. Okay, so you're gonna go through and you're gonna do all that, but I want to figure out what is this sentence structure. So this is one clause. How do we know that this is a clause, what I bracketed here? Anna Grace.
Because it has a subject and a verb, and then it's separated by a comma.
Has, well, not necessarily the comma, it has a subject and a verb, and it starts with what type of conjunction? Subordinating conjunction. So we know, Anna Grace, what type of clause is this?
It's an independent side.
It's a dependent clause, okay. And then, Caroline, what's the other clause in this sentence?
Aren't they only one that's really simple?
Okay, and Benjamin, what type of clause is this?
Independent,
Okay, how do you know it's independent?
because it's after a dependent clause, and it's,
I could have a dependent clause
Well,
after
yes.
another dependent clause.
cause it doesn't have a subordinate conjunction.
And can it stand alone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, so we've got, what type, what's the sentence structure, Timothy? One dependent, one independent, what's the sentence structure?
Complex.
Okay, so you're gonna write CS, okay? Lucy?
Why is there a comma between but and but? There's one on our paper, but not on the board.
But not on the board. Okay, you don't have to have commas in front of conjunctions that join words or phrases.
But why is there a comma?
Because they put it there because they
Why
wanted
is it?
to.
Okay, so let me tell you, I'm not sure why here, but I am going to tell you guys that there are, and I didn't count that, and the truth is, I don't know if it's optional or if it shouldn't be there, okay? But you don't, it is, absolutely has to be there when it's joining clauses, okay? At the very minimum, it's optional, but there are 5 punctuation mistakes on this worksheet, and tomorrow when we go over this, if you are one that can point out those punctuations, so if you come across a punctuation problem, then circle it or write it in, and there will be candy for your efforts.
I found one earlier.
Okay, so, Which one are we gonna diagram first?
Independent.
Okay, independent, so what's the subject verb pair in that?
Family was
Okay, so
thankful.
family was. So Lucy, what type of verb is was?
It's a linking verb,
Linking verb. So what do we anticipate will follow a linking verb?
either a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective.
Okay, which one is it? What do we have?
Adjective.
Yeah, we've got predicate adjectives, and actually we have two. So you are going to have a rocket ship for your predicate adjective, and you're doing thankful, tired, and it's joined by the conjunction but. Okay, so that's a little bit different. I wanted to point that out. Maddie.
So that thing you're talking about, like getting the comments, we don't have to worry about that until tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just a side thing. I realized that when I was doing this worksheet. So, okay, are there any adjectives or adverbs? Anything that modifies family, Christian? Our, okay. And then what do we do with, Olivia, what do we do with the adverb extremely?
We put it under what? No, wait, sorry.
What is extremely modifying?
Thankful.
Oh, extremely, sorry. It was modifying thing.
It's thankful.
I was looking at it
be
visually.
extremely tired. Was extremely.
Well, that's not clear.
tired. I guess
That's not
like-
clear. So you're gonna put it what it's the closest to. We don't know if they're extremely thankful but tired, or extremely thankful and tired, and extremely tired. Okay, so there's our independent clause. So where does the dependent clause go, Josh?
You said, underneath the verb,
Okay, underneath the verb. How are we gonna connect this?
by verbs, so you put in, you can exit it in.
Okay, so what's our subject verb here, Jacob? On the dependent clause?
Party.
Party, and what's the verb? Ended. Okay, and then we're gonna connect from verb to verb
You put when on the line,
and put when on the line.
and put the in eventually.
Where are we putting the in
The
eventually?
party eventually ended.
Okay, so the and eventually.
And when is capitalized.
I did capitalize it. Okay, so there's the first one. Now, in this case, we didn't have any adverbial phrases. So let's look at, we're not gonna diagram the second one, but I will tell you there's one adverb, single word adverb, and then there's a couple prepositional phrases, and we need to decide if they're adverbial or adjectival. So, Eliza Min, what's the adverb in number 2? Wild, so you should underline wild. Okay, what's a prepositional phrase, Sarah Rhodes,
Any prepositional phrase?
in number 2?
On slippery pebbles.
Okay, on slippery pebbles. So Sarah Rhodes, what question is that answering?
Where?
Where? The boy stepped where? On slippery pebbles. So is that adverbial?
Yes.
So you would underline that. And then what's another adverb, Maddie?
Through the field,
Through the field. What question does that answer?
where?
That's another where. So that would be adverbial. Okay, now, as you go through this though, you're gonna find there are some prepositional phrases that are not adverbial, so don't underline them. And remember, if it answers the question which and where, you always default to adjective. Okay? Maddie?
I was just glancing over the rest of it. Number 3, I don't understand what by surprise.
You don't understand what?
What by surprise?
It's a preface.
But what kind of preface?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like how did it take them by surprise?
So, do you guys remember the sheet that I gave you like this? That has the list of the questions? You don't have to get it out, but it says that a lot of times, why and under what condition are answered by a prepositional phrase, okay? So think about that. So, the horn rim glasses took me, took me what?
Took me how?
Yeah, how?
How did you think about it?
Yeah, I think that would be a how, okay? I don't think that's as nice of an answer, but I think that's the closest, and keep in mind the why and under what condition. And then also keep in mind that sometimes a noun acts as an adverb, if it's answering an adverb question. Okay, so let's gather our stuff, you guys have 20 minutes, you should be able to finish this.